I want to know a little more of how do you vet a brand and you know they've got potential?
By being proactive.
Yeah, that's great. I love that metaphor analogy of the bucket and the leaky holes. Just so I understand, that 6-month arrangement then, are you paying for the paid traffic or they're paying for that?
Well, so here's what happens. When I make my pitch, normally I'm the one paying 100% of it. Now, every single month from the beginning of the engagement, I'm always providing reports, at least monthly reports, but I'm also kind of emailing them or Slack messaging them or whatever, just some things like, oh, look at your worst seller is now selling. Now we just sold through like 100 units and stuff, and you never ever sold 100 units. Or when was the last time you sold 100 units, right? But again, I think data and numbers is what really kind of sweetens the pot for most of those relationships, where not only do I say that, I tell them why it sold 100 units, for the first time in history. And then I'll tell them, this is what we spent to generate X amount of dollars. So in reality, if we spent $1 on advertising, it generated $2.50. Now, all of a sudden, they're like, dang, that's awesome. That's awesome that you're just kind of printing money that way. It's like, okay, then my response then is, hey, how about you contribute? We just expand upon that. So at any point in time, once I have enough data, I can go back and ask them to contribute. But the problem is, if you're a service provider, and I understand everybody needs to make money, right? They may not have that ability to take that kind of risk. But the thing is, it's kind of like, if you show them the money and you explain to them how they can participate in expanding that, why wouldn't they go for it? Why wouldn't anybody go for it, right? It's like, if you can take $1 and turn it to $1.10, it's like, how many times do you do it? As many times as you can, right? Until you can max out that opportunity and move on to something else.
And then do you get paid at the end of the 6 months or throughout, or how does that arrangement work?
No, we make our money from the profit. So truly from the profits. So, if we buy something for 10, sell for 30, whatever our spread is there, is what we make. So we have to be very good and not just analyzing what the opportunity could be like, because we are obviously committing to a brand and our resources and all of that. It's just one of those things where you have to kind of know like what you're going to put into it. And if the margins are going to be there, and if you need to, most of the time, like when we take on brands, there hasn't been any instance where we haven't had to raise the price immediately from day one when we took on those brands' products. Normally at the very least, we're raising the prices by 30%. So, and whether they like it or not, some brands don't like it. It's kind of like, I don't want to be overpriced like the most expensive nut butter out there. And it's like, but if people pay for it and they don't complain, like, yeah, you might have your regulars complain for a little bit, but then once that transitions out, actually being higher price in the market or even raising your price. This happened actually. This truly happened with that company where they're like, well, we took like a $12 almond butter to $20. And they're like, oh my God, that's so high. Like, who's going to pay that? And then it became their number one bestseller. The data doesn't lie. If people pay it, then what's the problem? And plus they might see it as a premium, right? Whether you're advertising it as premium or not, or whether you're explaining in the content or copy why the price is that high, which we never had to do. People just paid it. So, and obviously we don't have to be stuck at $20. If it wasn't selling, we'd back it down, right? So, there's still a lot of optimization and testing and things like that. I can't permanently just keep it there and not at least test and optimize and review the performance or underperformance of it.
That's phenomenal. So you're coming in, doing some test ads. Eventually you're negotiating for a percent of profit. Is that right?
No, I take 100% of the profit. So if their wholesale price is $5 and I sell it for 20, and let's say profit on that is, after all fees and whatever else that I pay, advertising and things, my profits, let's say $2, at the end of the day. Well, if I'm selling thousands of units a month, let's say 1,000 units a month, that's $2,000 profit on that one product, right? That's how we make our money anyways. Now, of course, let's say that's net after me paying for ads too. I can obviously earn more if I go back to the company and say, hey, how about you participate in ads? So it's not for the purpose of them replacing what I'm spending. It's actually to complement what I'm spending, because if I sell more, they sell more. And so in reality, it's kind of like, and that doesn't necessarily guarantee that I'll spend any less. That's not what I do in terms of like, let's say I'm spending $1,000 a month on the brand, just hypothetically, and I ask them to spend 1,000. And let's say that raises sales by 15%. Well, we both win, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that I don't really set budgets or hard budgets. And so I could still spend $1,500, $3,000 that month, but obviously I'm going to ensure that there's that, lift associated with it too.
Pretty amazing. That's a really interesting model, Jamie. I like that you've come up with this.
Yeah, it's still in the works. You get some brands, obviously sometimes feels a little bit funny, after a year, some of the brands and having, produce the annual report and them seeing how they grew by 5,000% and they're looking at it and they're like, man, you're, on the retail side, of course, we take more risk. We're on the front line. So it appears that we're profiting more than they are on the wholesale side, or the manufacturing side, right? So all of a sudden you kind of get a tinge sometimes of like, you can kind of see that the wheels are spinning in their head. It's kind of like, I wonder if we just cut Jamie off, or if we just take this brand back, or, that we could be having that and everything would just sustain itself. And in reality, I mean, you can, if you got the resources to replace what we do and how we do it. But if you fail and I don't take you back, or if I hold a grudge, which I don't, but if I hold a grudge against you and don't take you back, then your brand's just back to wherever it is. Maybe you'll sustain a little bit, but unless you've got all the resources, because for me, like once I invest, it becomes an asset, right? That's the way I treat it. And so a lot of times we put a whole lot more than what a brand would ever be comfortable with. And that's kind of where I think this model belongs, or why there's space for it, is because you can go to a brand who would never probably imagine or even take that risk because they either don't have the skill set themselves, they don't have the funds, they don't have whatever. They're lacking something. For us, we're already mature in the sense that we can take those risks, lose, and still cut our losses if we wanted to. But so far, we haven't really lost on any, brand deals. We've lost brands in part of ways where we basically just fired the brands because we felt like either it wasn't going to work out, it just wasn't flying no matter what we did, or we started to feel where the owners were just kind of taking advantage of us in terms of like they wanted more and more and more, and wasn't really recognizing that we've already gotten you a whole lot more than you would have ever gotten in the history of the company. Sorry, we can't give you more time or more attention or whatever because we're busy producing thousands of percentiles lift in your business already. It's kind of like greed just starts to step in, right? And I'm trying to build an asset, for the both of us mutually. And if they don't see that, then, I kind of part ways, and it's like, okay, at that point, everything we put into it obviously is gone, but at least we still have a case study or a story to tell, right?
That's phenomenal. I love you say right out of the gates, oftentimes we need to raise the price, and that in itself is a fast way to raise profits, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to pull levers that move the needle, right? Or push buttons to get to the needle to move. And that's the thing, is it's all about granularity. It's not about the shotgun approach of just launching as many products as you can, or as many suppliers you can sign up with, or, whatever it may be, to just inflate your vanity numbers, right? And that's the thing that I've seen over the course of my 25 years is that, a lot of business owners, they're trapped in their business wearing so many hats because of the fact that they experience a sale and they get another sale, another dozen sales. And all of a sudden, to them, that just represents, a form of success or something that's working. And the thing about it is like everything works and has a place in this world, or else we wouldn't have a name for it, or we wouldn't have a place, or people wouldn't be talking about it. And that's the most dangerous thing about business in general, right? It's like when things start to work, but you don't have the skill set, or you don't have the formal schooling, if there is even formal schooling on e-commerce, to be able to distinguish like that not everything is equal opportunity. Not everything you should put effort into. Not everything is necessarily an equal opportunity in the sense that you're going to fit it in your day, your week, your month plans. At some point, once you start to mature in business, especially, and especially when things start to get tight, that's when you get really taught the real life lessons, right? Like, one of the strategies that we employ, not just for clients, but even for, in our internal business, is one of the priorities for us is what can we eliminate? Not even prioritize, right? Because if you're going to prioritize something, that means you decided to keep it and it lives in your business. It lives in your day, your week, your month, your year. But if you wake up and say, what is it that I can eliminate today that in the whole scheme of things, like if I cut it off, I'm not going to miss it, versus trying to keep everything. It makes $1, so you keep it. That one makes $1, you keep it. That one generates $2, you keep it. And then all of a sudden you're maxed out. Now you're working 16, 18 hours a day, you're working weekend, versus, okay, that one's generating 30, but all these are generating 50 cents a piece. Let's cut those and find more $30 products. So elimination is actually something that, I don't see happening in a company. It's always about, let's just produce more. Again, if you don't have the skill set, more might represent really just more work. You're just doing more of something that amounts to the same thing. You're not really growing the business. It's like the number of products and the number of hours you're stacking, every day is just burying you. And that becomes more, but it's an illusion of more.
That is great advice and great wisdom from the trenches. I really appreciate that, Jamie. I would be remiss not to ask you, when you guys come in for that 3 to 6 months and you're going to hit it hard, what do?
Everything that we already know how to do. It depends. Paid ads, it's whatever we uncover really under the hood, right? I mean, at that point, we do need access to just about everything that they can give us access to. Sometimes we have to bring software or tools in to be able to uncover data or show us data in a certain way that would just make our work more efficient, or reveal things to us that would take too much digging into Excel spreadsheets, right? So, at that point, like almost everything that lives online has got some form of analytics, your ROAS and your click-through rates and your conversion rates and your ad spend, stuff like that. And so we start there, what's already existing in the business, because, again, sometimes, businesses feel like they're limited because they don't have a budget, or they've maxed out their budget. We go in with that elimination strategy of like, what do you not need here? You got way too much stuff. Maybe if we can cut, this, that we could basically fit this in and focus and find like your top 20%, top 10% of the products, and see if we can actually squeeze more out of those. For example, let's say on the e-commerce side, that may look like, okay, all of your Klaviyo email flows are all just the out-of-the-box email flows, right? You customize it, you offer a coupon here and there, you add another email to the flow, asking for the sale or whatever, but that's about the extent. What about taking the number one product that sells the most and building a custom flow just for that product, however long it takes you to build out a series where you're not only educating, but you're asking them to get, asking them to buy again, asking and upselling and cross-selling other products related to that, asking for them to leave a review, a UGC or like a user-generated content review, right? Like just focusing on that one SKU. Like, so instead of you doing $10,000 a month on that product just on autopilot, what if you can do 15 or 20? That 15 or 20 might allow you to eliminate 50 SKUs over there that don't do any sales, but you have to manage it because it lives in your system, it lives in your warehouse, it lives everywhere else, right? So now you're creating efficiencies and you're becoming a lot more honed in. So that's the kind of stuff that we do, is we look for those opportunities where what tools do you already have in place, what data is, what data can already tell you to kind of give you a compass or direction of like, what should you be focusing on right now that it's obvious, it's just low hanging fruit, and that's really kind of where we separate ourselves from the pack.
Sounds like 80-20 analysis, do more of what's working. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. Because again, everything works, right? Everything works. And it's not necessarily equal for every business too, even if they're in the same industry or category of products. But it is do more of what works. But the question is, who's going to define that for you, or who's going to help uncover that for you? It's great seeing you with a bookshelf full of books in the back, back there, because that's one of the keys to our success is personal development and education, right? Like, I don't claim to know everything, but everything practically has been written about, right? Or everything has practically been documented in some shape or form. And so it's not about consumption, it's about, I would never go in and necessarily read an entire book in one month or one sitting or anything like that. What I would do is I'm a lot more optimized even in that sense. Whether we're talking about social media as a resource, YouTube as a resource, books, events, I'm not going to pick up a book, or I'm not going to go to an event, or I'm not going to watch a YouTube video unless I'm faced with that specific challenge right now, because I don't have all day to go watch an hour on something I'm not going to implement minutes from now, maybe tomorrow at the very latest, right? So, that's how it's become, because we live in a world where it's unlimited free information. And then you pile on top of that the paid information you can go buy, right? And all of a sudden you're buried in information. And what use is knowledge when you don't take action? That's
great. I've heard that described as seek out just-in-time information, not just-in-case information.
Right. Exactly.
That's great. That's really what we're moving to. Well, Jamie, I really appreciate you coming on, sharing all these knowledge bombs. It's clear you're just a true veteran in this industry, and it's great to learn from you. Where can people find you and learn more about what you're doing?
Well, sellersuccessacademy.com is the website, and all our contact information is there. But I invite anyone to probably reach out to me or schedule right on the website. It's free, doesn't cost anything. Just have a conversation. I'm not even pitching anything or don't have anything to pitch, because again, I'm in the relationship business, right? And it's about getting to know who I'm talking to, and if there is a need that they elect that they need, not necessarily me saying you need that just because I can offer it to you. If it comes up in conversation or if I sense it, then, let it be. But, just hop onto the website, reach out. More than happy to talk to you for however long you want to talk. I just love talking shop.
All right, Jamie, thank you for coming on and sharing what's working in e-commerce.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.